76-year-old Juan Roldan is behind bars after he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl who was at the beach with her family. The incident occurred at around 2 p.m. on the 13th of August in the 200 block of West Montrose Harbor Drive at Montrose Beach in Chicago, Illinois. The victim was attending a family picnic and she walked towards a set of public restrooms. While she was walking towards the toilets, Juan convinced the girl to visit a nearby bird sanctuary with him. Juan then allegedly pushed the teen into the bushes where he groped her and forced her to perform oral sex. The teen then escaped and ran back to her family and told her father about what happened. The girl then pointed to a napkin that Juan reportedly used to wipe himself off with after the assault, and that's when the girl's father began repeatedly punching Juan. Onlookers were able to separate the men and subdue Juan, who was arrested shortly thereafter. The police recovered several napkins from the scene, and the girl was transported to a nearby hospital, where the authorities conducted a forensic exam. Juan is charged with lewd assault, abuse and unlawful restraint. He is held without bond at the Cook County Jail. Juan has no prior criminal history. The investigation into the matter continues. 36-year-old Rachel Clay was put in handcuffs after she was behaving erratically, but then managed to slip out of the cuffs and open fire at the deputies using their assault rifle. The incident occurred at around 11:45 a.m. on the 12th of August, when the authorities went to a home near Bridge Creek in Grady County, Oklahoma, for a mental health call. When officers arrived at the scene, Rachel was in the front yard barking like a dog and crawling on the ground. She yelled, "Answer the phone. You let her die. I'm not human. You killed her." Officers felt that Rachel wasn't safe, so they placed her in custody. When Rachel got in the back of the patrol car, she reportedly somehow got her wrists free from the handcuffs, despite them being properly fitted. She then reached at a console at the front of the car and pulled a switch, which released an AR-15. She then loaded bullets into the firearm and shot 10 rounds out the rear window towards law enforcement officers and other civilians in the area. The authorities said that a bullet ricocheted off a tree and then hit a deputy in the back of the neck, and also hit a civilian in the chest. They were later admitted to hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. While barricading herself in the deputy's car, she allegedly wrote multiple notes on paper and placed them in the window, some of which read, "I killed one," and "kill any cop that tries to approach." A standoff ensued for hours until Rachel stepped out of the car herself and eventually surrendered at 4:45 p.m. Rachel later tested positive for meth. She's charged with 3 counts of shooting with intent to kill, and she's held at the Grady County Jail on a $1 million bond. 32-year-old Emmanuel Texera of Stock Island, Florida, is behind bars after pretending to be a rideshare driver and exposing himself and touching a female passenger against her will. The incident occurred at just before 1 a.m. on the 18th of August, when a 45-year-old woman had been drinking on the 200 block of Duval Street in Key West, Florida. When she attempted to get a rideshare home and a silver SUV approached her, she got in after the driver Emmanuel stated that he worked for the rideshare company. During the ride, Emmanuel exposed himself and repeatedly asked the victim to touch him, but she rebuked his advances. He attempted to pull her dress up, grabbed her wrist, and put his hands on her legs, all the while she told him to stop and to let her out of the SUV, which he declined to do. He eventually dropped her off at her home. The woman told investigators that she got an odd feeling before he assaulted her, adding that she felt that the driver was not really a rideshare driver. Deputies found a silver SUV, identified the driver as Emmanuel, and learned that although he had a rideshare company logo on his SUV, he was not working for the company. Later that same day, the victim identified Emmanuel as a suspect, and he was booked into the Monroe County Jail. He's charged with sexual assault, kidnapping, battery and indecent exposure. He's held on a $15,000 bond. 43-year-old John Evans is behind bars after firing his gun during a dispute outside his workplace. The incident occurred on the morning of the 19th of August, when deputies responded to reports of shots fired at the Richmond Traffic Control, located at 1182 Ramoth Church Road in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Once there, deputies discovered that John, an employee of the business, was extremely irate and engaged in a verbal dispute with another employee. During the dispute, John walked out of the business, retrieved a handgun from his truck, and fired a round into the ground of the parking lot. Investigators say the round struck the ground approximately an inch from the other employee's tyre. John then fled the scene in his truck after the shooting. Deputies were able to locate John a short distance away, sitting in his truck in the parking lot of the Ramoth Baptist Church. John was arrested with a 9mm handgun, which was recovered from the truck. He was charged with reckless handling of a firearm, shooting in a public place, and carrying a concealed weapon. He's held at the Stafford County Jail without bond. During the incident, deputies said an employee of the business suffered a medical emergency, but they did not specify what the emergency was. She was treated and released by the Stafford County Fire and Rescue at the scene.